So we're talking about how to prioritize all the tasks in your head, which if you have ADHD, you probably have a lot, right? That's a normal thing. So first off, is this a thing? So there's a number of reasons why, we would have a trouble prioritizing. And it kind of comes back to our executive function, right? So we can see all the tasks at once. We have big picture vision. And so we might see like the big picture and maybe not break it down. Our brains sometimes don't prioritize, which we can also not necessarily prioritize stimulus either. So we can have this big picture thinking, this all or nothing thinking, which can be amazing. We can also have fears around our working memory, like forgetting stuff. So we might hold something and be scared to, because we can also hyper focus, right? So if we go into something, we might be nervous about forgetting something. We might be overstimulated. There's and really just like the way that the brain is wired in the pruning system can happen like that as well is like our brain just sees all the tasks, right? And then sometimes we can shut down. It's kind of like if you have your computer open and you have all the tabs and there's so many tabs and then the computer freezes and like shuts down. That can happen as with us as well. So an example, like a lot of people are doing taxes right now. And if who's had some resistance around taxes or anxiety around tax? Anybody had that before? I mean, probably all of us, right? So, an example of what can happen with that, with the taxes, is that we think, okay, I got to do my taxes, right? I got to do my taxes. And in our brain, we're thinking, finish the taxes, where our brain's not really saying, oh, I've got to do my taxes, which is not just one thing, it's all of these tasks. Like, and then the priority, right? So if you want to do your taxes first, you might need to reach out to your tax person, right? And then see what the first step is, or what they need from you. Or maybe there's executive function challenges, like I know that I need to upload it to this portal, but I forgot my password and I need this. And all of a sudden it can feel overwhelming and we can kind of shut down. So again, we see big picture stuff a lot of times, and then we don't like see some of the, you know, um, other pieces to that might be helpful, just that first step. And that's part of the executive function. So then we get overwhelmed or we get dysregulated and we shut down trying to protect ourselves from that. And then we just push it away because that thing now is dysregulating. And we're going to go do this other thing really quickly because it calms our anxiety again, right? Or it soothes us. Whereas if we had a system or a plan, or we have the expectation, if you do, that it might be just hard to break that stuff down, then you're going into it with tools versus just pretending like you're supposed to remember, you're supposed to know how to do it, right? So that's what we want to talk about today. It's like, what are some things that you can do? What are the tools, right? So there's a lot of different things that we can do. I want to start off with a tool that has been pretty big for me and for clients. And so I just want to share that with you right off the bat. And this is the brain dump sheet. I've had some people ask this that watch the YouTube video. So before I go into more stuff, I just want to give you this. So this is the brain dump priority sheet. When I have a task, I use this for my stuff. And so when you have this, if you want to use this template, and I'll explain in a second, you're going to go to File, make a copy, and then you're going to change it to whatever you want, make a copy, and that's yours. We can't see it, right? So File, make a copy. The cool thing with this is, yes, I like to write stuff down and other clients do too, but what if you forget your notebook, right? So what you can do, it's basically a live document if you haven't used a Google Doc before. So you can access this anytime on your phone. And this is how we can prioritize. So what essentially this is doing, this is going to do the stuff that your brain is not doing quite as easily, right? This is going to do it for you. So let's say you have something that's really overwhelming. Could be a whole to-do list. It could be a task list. Let's see in the comments, what's something right now that might feel overwhelming right now that you're not sure how to prioritize? Just write something in the comments. What might that be? Okay, paying off debt, lead gen. Yep. Let's say we have our list, and this is a template, so just delete this if you make a copy while I'm writing on it, which you can, which is fine. Just make a copy of it. So we have lead gen, right? That might be something we need to do. A new business, pay off debt, right? So if I'm in overwhelm and I've got all this stuff in my head, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get that out. I'm going to just, I want to do a whole brain dump on this page, right? This whole sheet. I want to do a whole brain dump. So it might be, let's say, taxes. Let's say pick up lockbox. Let's just say you just got so much you don't know where to start. I mean, anybody relate to that? Meet a buyer, home inspection docs, So everything on your, even if it's like pick up meds, schedule a doc appointment, just like literally anything on your plate, even if it's like start workout, just get everything out of there because what can happen when with our ADHD brains is like we can try to hold on to it because we don't want to forget it and we got to repeat it over and over again and it's actually taxing. Like we don't want to tax your brain power. We want to get it on a list. So that's my biggest advice is just get on a list where you can see it. So start workout, right? So I mean it could be everything. It could be set up therapist and whatever that is, right? So you're going to put every single thing that's in your brain that you have to do, all the demands, all the taxes, like everything, right? Somebody you have to call. Okay. So this would obviously be longer probably if we really did a true brain dump. So you're just all the tasks, right? So the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to assign it a priority level. So you can see these, and again, it's your copy, so you can edit it if you want different things. But what you're going to do is you're going to assign maybe what a priority level is. So lead gen. And what I say, number one, a lot of people put one. So here's the thing with our brains and why prioritizing can be harder. Because sometimes for us, not sometimes, this is what they've shown in studies, we see time as now or not now. Right? It's either now or not now. So if you've ever had somebody you lived with, roommate, spouse, partner, that's like, hey, can you take the trash out later? A lot of times you might not forget because it's not right now, So it's like, whoop, so now or not now. And so a lot of times what I see with clients is they will put a one on everything, right? And so what I say, this number one is if you don't do it today, you're screwed. That's a one, right? So if you haven't done your lead gen, and I would say lead gen is definitely a priority. We're going to put a one on that because lead gen's the most important thing you can do for your business, like possible, right? So if you don't do it today, you're screwed. So lead gen. And so we're gonna assign numbers to these new business. So I'm gonna assume and then just make something up. But let's say you need to do a new LLC, right? When do you have to have it done by? Well, I've got to have it done by this week. It's okay if it doesn't get done today, right? Because the other thing we want to do, I want the least amount of reds possible because it can actually make you feel like you're getting ahead. So pay off debt. This is something we want to do. I don't know what the debt, let's say this day or someday, and we're going to break this down in a second. Taxes, I need to do this by the end of the week, right? So I'm going to assign all these numbers. I've got to do this today or they're going to call me and get mad. I'm meeting the buyer tomorrow, home inspection docs by today, pick up meds I can do this week, schedule a doctor appointment. I've got to do by next week, start my workout definitely this month, set up a therapist someday, whatever, right? So you have your priority level. Now, what you can do up here, this little triangle, and it says here, now we can actually go sort the sheet A to Z, boom. So now we have a priority level. Now, here's the other thing I want to do is if you want, you can do a due date. So if you type in a due date, let's say I need to do my taxes by, let's say by tomorrow or something, right? So if it's, oh, I guess I did it wrong. So if it's like within a certain amount of time, it's going to turn red. But you'll see if I don't have to do this till the 28th, oops. Oh, there we go. It's going to turn gray, right? So this is actually color coded for you. It's color formatted. So you just type in the date. So this is if you forget, right? That date's going to turn colors whenever we get to that point. It's built-in formulas. You can do the link. So if you have the home inspection docs, there's a link. Now this is the key part is the first step. So let's go to lead gen. So what is the first step in lead gen for you? There's no wrong answers. What's your first step in lead gen if you want to do lead gen? Decide which source you're targeting. So what you may do is decide source and open it up, right? You could do something like that. Or you could say, so you can do the first step. You can also break it down. So all of a sudden, this big thing that was lead gen now is like, okay, I just need to decide the source. So sometimes when we feel really stuck, just what's the first step? Same thing with like pay off debt, right? That's a big one. So pay off debt. So what would be the first step on paying off debt?
Write down how much debt you have.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yep, yep. So open spreadsheet and write down debt. So it's so like still I have to do this, right? And just sit um and do it. Because our brain sometimes is like a brain of extremes or wants to do it all now. Yeah, you could check your credit report. So this like just checking the first step can really help us because we want to get the priority list. So we've got our priority level, we've got the due date, we've got the first step. Then we're going to go to the stuff that matters the most, right? So lead gen, let's say power hour, which I recommend, which is 1 hour a day. You don't have to do 4 hours. You can, but just 1 hour, right? Pick up the lockbox, either do that now or schedule it. Like I'm going to do it at 2 on the way to my showing. Home inspection docs, I'm going to print that out now. Now, when it's done, you can just type in done, right? It turns green. And then you can go back up here and sort. And now you've got your success list at the bottom, right? And so now mine, right, obviously is like rows and rows. So for us, it's hard on each other. We can look at that. So this is one tool. I'm going to talk to you about others, but I wanted to give this right away. So now you're ahead, right? You might have a lot more things that are red, but let's say you're done. Now it's like we actually get to be on the offense versus the defense. So meet a buyer. Well, that's going to be tomorrow. You can't get ahead. New business. First step might be look up LLC, right? So now we're actually getting proactive versus what can happen a lot is I go to this thing and then this thing and this thing and this thing and then this thing and I kind of have to do this and this and then I get overwhelmed and I leave it because I'm getting dysregulated. If you've ever had that, or you start working on something, start getting dysregulated, and so then you just jump to something else instead of finishing it because you're about to get understimulated or you're getting overwhelmed. It's actually a protective measure. So that's the brain dump sheet that you can do. Some other tools that you can do is what's called, let's go back to the official name because I use this one too. It's called the Eisenhower Matrix. And it's out of the book by Stephen Covey, and it's in the 7 habits of highly effective people. And it's helping you determine what's like actually urgent. So I'm going to show you a visual of that. So you'll see like you have on upper left is important and urgent. So what you can do is you can take a piece of paper. This is a ticket I got when I was in North Dakota. Anyways, so we take the back of this ticket, right? And you can draw a line down the middle. And then so you're going to separate it into 4 parts. And then the upper quadrant is going to be like urgent and important, right? You can do this writing because it can help if you want, or this. You can have important and urgent, right? And then you can have important but maybe not urgent. And then you might have not important but urgent if we have those, like, oh, I need this. And it's actually not that important. Like some agent in your office wants you to do something for free, but they actually like not someone you want to help. Maybe somebody's just asking for something, taking advantage of you, but it feels urgent. You don't need to do that, right? If it's important though, and you want to help them, it might go in the important but not urgent because urgent is calling the seller back or doing your lead gen. And then you have the not important, not urgent, which you can see is delete. So do now. If it's urgent and important, you got to do it now. If it's important but it's not urgent, you're going to schedule it on your calendar. And if it's not important but it is urgent, you're going to delegate it out, leverage it or let it go. And then not urgent, not important, you're just not going to do it. So that's the Eisenhower matrix right there. So that's one option that you can do. So, because I just thought I'd give you tools, you know what I mean? I thought that would be helpful. And then a couple other things. We also might look at like prioritizing the top 3 priorities, right? Because everything can feel urgent. So, starting your day, the first 30 minutes with what's going to make me money today, whether that's creating urgency in new buyers that could pop at any moment, listing, if it's lead gen, whatever that is, what's going to move a deal forward, what has a real deadline. So just really figure out like what are the 3 things. I know some people will figure out the day before, like what would be a win that next day. Because again, we can see all the tasks and feel like they're all important. And that's why I showed you those 2 tools right at the beginning, because they do not all have the same importance level. That's not true. And so when you can break them down and kind of do that, then you start to see that. But when it all feels important and you haven't taken the pause to break them down, it feels really overwhelming because how are we supposed to do all this stuff, right? Um, so that's another thing. Externalizing everything. I don't rely on your memory, right? That can be really taxing. So digital task manager or CRM, use sticky notes. I've got some, use sticky notes, voice notes when you're on the go, reminders. The other thing with prioritizing tasks that can be helpful is time blocking in buckets. So what I mean by that is we sometimes can struggle with like task switching or task initiation. So going from one type of task or one environment to another, and like transitions can be difficult. So this is if you've struggled, let's say like getting in vacation mode when you go on vacation, and then you finally get in vacation mode, and then you struggle to get out of it, right? And then you can't get back into work mode. And it takes you a little bit. So that's an example of that. Also, let's say you're doing a bunch of work at home and it's quiet and you're doing admin stuff, and now all of a sudden you're supposed to call people, and it's like it feels jarring because you've been in like a calmer mode. So kind of easing into that transition can be helpful, or batching the tasks together. And so that's what I mean when I say if you are time blocking or just being intentional with your time, have a bucket where you do all the admin stuff. And then you have a bucket where you do all the people phasing stuff or all the creative or the marketing stuff. So you're not going from emails to phone calls to marketing to social media to go picking up signs to like all this stuff. If you can batch them together, and you're going to have less transitions, and that's going to be easier for your brain to have less transitions. And then let's see. And then also having some blocks in there, like some breaks. A lot of times, how to prioritize in our head, we could actually do it if we slow down. And does anybody have this like looming feeling that you're always behind? Does everybody have that like you're always behind, you're always missing stuff? Totally, totally. Okay. I get that sometimes too, and a lot of us do. And so what that can prevent us from doing is like slowing down to speed up. And so it feels like I don't have time to make a list. I have too much on my plate. I can't sit and be still for 10 minutes to write out this list. There's no time. And that's coming from scarcity, and it's not true. Because if you slow down and make a list, it feels weird, but you slow down to speed up, it's likely you're going to get twice as much done. You don't have time to not take 10 minutes to make a list. You don't have time to just go without actually being intentional, because I'm telling you, you're going to get so much. That 10 minutes is going to give you like 2 hours back. It's crazy. And so just reminding yourself that slowing down for a second to prioritize, to book your day out, to say, okay, I'm going to do this at this time. This will take about this much time, or I'm going to do it here. That can do absolute wonders for you. So make sure that you're slowing down to get some kind of list, whatever you're using, whether it's Trello, whether it's Monday.com, whether it's the brain dump spreadsheet I gave you, or the Eisenhower method with the blocks, like whatever works for you is fine. And it might switch around. Like you might do the brain dump sheet until it's not new anymore. Don't beat yourself over the head with it. Go to something else. Go to some fun tech. Go to ChatGPT. When that becomes stale, go to a handwritten list. That's the other thing that happens with agents that are trying to prioritize everything in their head, is that when something there that was working stops working, they keep forcing it and then beating themselves up. And then they start to associate that tool or whatever with shame or dysregulation. And then they just say, well, it doesn't work anymore, instead of like, oh, I need to rotate tools. So if something worked for you even for one day, put it in your toolkit. It worked for one day, right? And then you can almost have a menu to go to when it's time to prioritize. And so that way you can, like when something is stale and not new anymore, if there's not dopamine flowing, unless you're creating stress and cortisol, you might just be like kind of slowly burning out on it, unless something else happens, or there's accountability, or there's body doubling or something. And that's what I say. When there's resistance to something and you can just switch to another tool, you don't need to be consistent. Who cares what list you use or what tool, right? It just matters the outcome. So that's the other thing. And so another way is like your prioritization level, and this is maybe more nuanced, is sometimes we can prioritize. I'm going to go deep here for a second, but we can prioritize doing things perfect, and that can tie back to like us needing to be perfect to be good enough. I told you I'm going deep real quick. But if I'm perfect, right? If I can get this perfect, and then and it's this all or nothing thinking, and we, without noticing, prioritize doing things perfectly when they don't need that level of perfection. And so that's where the good enough rule comes in, right? Like 85% good enough, especially you've heard me talk about this like Canva hell. I've leveraged that stuff out because I will be on Canva on one graphic for like 5 hours, and it should not be getting that priority level. It's not that big of a deal. So we can also prioritize stuff. And so just and it's fun, right? Like it's totally fun to do Canva, and it doesn't have to be as perfect as Tyler tried to make it, right? It's like it's good enough. But yeah, just kind of prioritizing what is like actually need to be that specific. Maybe a contract so you don't get sued, but not the perfect shade, right? Or you don't have to craft the perfect email. It just has to be good enough. Use ChatGPT, but that 85% good enough rule is going to help you, because part of the reason you might have so many tasks that never get done is because you're trying to do them too perfectly, and done is better than perfect. And then it's not good enough, so you don't complete it. Have you ever got that 75% done, but it's not good enough, and so you're not ready to send it, so you leave it, and then you look later and it's in your drafts, or you didn't do it and it was almost done, but it just, you didn't think it was perfect enough. You didn't send it. Send it and build your tolerance to good enough, because you'll see it's not going to implode, right? So again, just again, if you have a big task, break it into tiny steps. That's going to be really important. So even if you're like, oh, I've got to call this client, they may procrastinated or had trouble. Let's say I got to call this client, right? With that, I know we've probably all had that. So breaking it down is going to be important. So instead of I got to call this client, is I need to pick up my phone, right? And then I need to unlock my phone. And then I need to go to my contacts and type in their name and just hit go. So sometimes like breaking it down at that level can be helpful as well, and it's not quite as overwhelming. So just really like really like doing it that way, like even lead gen. Oh, I got to do lead gen. It's like this big thing. No, you don't have to do that. You don't have to, like you're choosing to, is all you need to do is you need to go sit in your chair in your air conditioned office and open up your computer and turn it on. That's all you have to do right now. And then the next thing is just open up the CRM. That's it. And the next thing is just look at the people and see when you want to call them. And if you talk yourself through like that, it can actually dissolve a lot of the resistance or call reluctance that can happen, you know? Um, so that can happen. Also, the urgency levels, like with artificial deadlines, that can help with prioritizing. So if you know that you spend too long on something, if you give yourself a certain amount of time, let's say I have X amount of time to do this thing, I'm going to set a timer, and when that timer goes off, I'm done. Right. So it's also about how much are we prioritizing the time to that task. So, an example, it's like, okay, this is what I used to do with certain things, and clients have done as well. Like, I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes. If I spend more than 15 minutes on this, that is not like I'm doing too much. Like, it's this quick thing of this email. And when the timer goes off, you have to send it. Like, within a minute, you have to send it. And it creates this urgency. So you got to keep that promise with yourself, because if you break that promise, it's going to be easier next time. But just that, okay, I have 15 minutes. Here's the timer. It's getting close. And when it hits 15, like I gotta send, and then just see, even if it's uncomfortable. So that can really help that as well. And another thing of prioritizing tasks is creating like a daily like reset ritual. So at the end of the day, review, go to your brain dump list and see the ones that you completed. If you can, give yourself a tiny second to look at your wins, which I know is harder for us a lot of times than looking at our gaps, our growth. Is what did you do right? Right. And then if there's anything that's not finished, reassign like the priority level when you need to do that, and then choose your three for the next day. Right. If you have three that will be a huge win that you get done the next day, and you know that, and you've built that trust, knowing like, hey, I know that I'm going to do those three things first, your brain starts to trust you, and then you can start to let go in the evening. Does anybody have that where you go home and you know you have these things on your to-do list, but you don't trust you're going to actually do it, so you can't let it go and you can't actually just breathe, right? It's like we keep it in our head almost. So teaching our brain that we can trust the promises we make with ourselves. Now, I don't mean this in if you're an executive function nightmare and you couldn't do it even if you tried, then that's not breaking trust. You need to pivot, right? So there's a balance between giving yourself grace if it's like debilitating and you just can't do it, versus being intentional and putting some work into that and like making sure it happens, right? Because we can make stuff front of mind if it's important to us. So yeah, the good enough You also, with the prioritization, like I said, power hour, you might anchor your day with some non-negotiables. So you say, okay, I do 10 calls a day no matter what, and I do one power hour of lead gen per day. And I've got to do 10 calls within that no matter what, right? Or 10 texts or whatever. And this stays regardless if I have five closings today. I don't care. I do this. So making sure you're taking those things that have to be done every day that build your business that are really important and those get first priority, right? You eat the frog first, as they say, or the one thing. That can be really helpful as well. So yeah, it's I think really the best advice that works for people is just get it out of your head and write it down. Like that is the number one thing. If you're feeling super overwhelmed, just go write it down. So next week, I'm gonna be doing a book summary. I just want to talk about this. So this one, the like top ADHD friendly book, and it's all about like our thinking. We're actually doing a more in-depth review in our group program, and we have next Thursday, not this Thursday, next Thursday, we actually have Diana Kokoska who's going to come on the group one. Yeah, so I'm going to do this on without her on Tuesday and just give some highlights of like our thinking patterns and stuff, and it's going to be really cool next week. And then Thursday, if you want to, you can join. And here's the link, our group program. If you want, there's a 7-day trial, so you can check that out. But Diana will be on not this Thursday, the next one. So that is how to prioritize all the tasks in your head. Shoot me a message if you need anything. Otherwise, we'll see you next Tuesday, or if you're in our Thursday community, then we'll see you on Thursday. So have a wonderful day. Thanks for being here, guys, and give yourself grace.